The house was dark. The dim light in the kitchen flickered as if sensing her absence. The wooden floor creaked under my footsteps, as if asking for caution. And I went to sleep with that phrase hammering in my head. Silence hurts too. The next morning, the world seemed unaware that she was gone. The gas truck passed by honking. The neighbor next door turned the radio on full volume, and Ona Lords' chicken was already pecking at the front gate waiting for the breadcrumbs that my grandmother threw every morning. All the same. Except me. I had the feeling that something was going to change forever, as if my grandmother's death had turned a key in a door that I didn't even know existed inside me. I went back to the room. I sat on the same edge of the bed, took the letter. The fold where I stopped still had the imprint of my hand on it. It was as if she had stopped there with me, waiting. And then I continued reading. Clara, if I didn't tell you any of this in life, it's because I thought time would solve it on its own. But I learned that time doesn't heal what we hide. I saw you fall. I saw when you closed yourself off, when he stopped singing, laughing, looking in the mirror. I saw you sinking slowly, and even without knowing how to hold your hand. I stayed there, hoping you come back. Those words tore me apart inside, because nobody, absolutely nobody. I had realized when this happened to me, neither does my mother, neither do my friends, neither do the teachers, but she saw. Flashback. I was 15 years old. It was at the height of internal chaos. I felt ugly, useless, disconnected from everything. I started skipping classes, stopped eating right. I slept all day, and I cried silently at night. They said it was a phase. Adolescence. Drama. For me, it was the end of the world. A dark hole that grew endlessly inside his chest. It was at this time that my mother sent me to spend a month with Grandma Cecilia. She said the country air would do me good. But really, she didn't know what to do with me anymore. I arrived there in mid-July. Cold, fog, smell of fresh bread in the morning. My grandmother welcomed me with a long hug, one of those that we find strange because we are no longer used to unhurried affection. It'll be okay, my angel, she said. You're just a little crooked inside, and we'll straighten that out with tea and conversation. But I didn't want tea. I didn't want to talk. I wanted to disappear. But she didn't force it. She just let the kettle whistle. I put my favorite cup on the table, and I waited. That time, you cried in the back shed. I heard. I pretended not to notice. But I sat outside, with the tape in my hand, and I prayed. I prayed, Clara. With all the strength I had, so that you wouldn't give up on yourself. My eyes filled with tears. I remembered that day. I had fled to the woodshed because I felt like I was going to collapse. I cried like a baby, lying on the floor, hugging her winter coat. And when I went out, I found Grandma sitting on the porch. With red eyes, and the lilac ribbon wrapped around the finger. Are you better, my daughter? Tomato menti. She smiled and said, then keep it to yourself. Maybe one day it will help you. And he placed the ribbon in my hand. I didn't understand. I thought it was just a random gesture. But now it all made sense. I went back to reading. You were always strong, but no one survives being strong all the time. You needed a safe place. And I tried to be that place, even without knowing how. The purple ribbon was my way of reminding you of that you could be fragile around me, that there was no need to fake courage. I closed the letter for a moment and hugged her pillow. The scent of lavender was still there, mixed with time, with absence, with everything she didn't say, but left written. I went down to the kitchen. I made some tea, the way she did, boiling water, fresh chamomile, and a pinch of honey. I sat at the table, the tape on the side, the open letter, and my heart was in pieces. But I recognized a kind of love that I had never felt so strongly, the kind of love that observes, that welcomes in silence, who does not judge, the kind of love that keeps secrets until we are ready to hear them. I went back to the room and, at the bottom of the same drawer, found another envelope. This time, no name. No date. Just a note stuck to the front. If she finds this, it's time. My fingers froze, wings inside. I knew there was something bigger, something that maybe wasn't just about me, but about her, about what she hid from the world, and even from the family itself. I sat down again. I took a deep breath, and I opened it. The envelope was thin, but it felt like it weighed a ton in my hands. It had no name, no date, just that note stuck to the front, written in pen. If she finds this, it's time. The handwriting was the same as the previous letter, but it was shaking a little more, as if she was afraid to write, or in a hurry, or both at the same time. My fingers were sweating. I laid the envelope on the bed end. I stared at him. For a time I couldn't count. I felt scared. I didn't know what I was going to find there, but I felt like that was going to change everything. Everything. I knew about my grandmother, and maybe about me too. I took a deep breath. I closed my eyes for a second, and I opened it. It was a shorter letter, 2 pages, written less carefully, with stains of something that looked like tea, or tears. It started like this: Clara, if you are reading this, it is because you were strong enough to continue. Before anything else, I want to ask you for forgiveness. Sorry for not telling you this before. Forgive me for keeping a secret that also belongs to you. My heart raced. I had no idea what she could be referring to, but the tone. It was something. Big I continued. This secret begins before you are born. It starts when I was just Cecilia, a country girl with dreams bigger than the city could hold. I was 17 when I met someone. An outsider. Soft-spoken, clothes to clean for someone who claimed to be He said he was only going to stay a few days, but he stayed for 3 months. 3 months that changed the course of my life. I stopped reading. The air was trapped between his throat and chest. Had my grandmother had a secret affair? This was never mentioned. Not even for her, not by anyone in the family, I continued, swallowing hard. At that time, the shame was greater than the heart, and when he left without saying goodbye, left more than just memories, made me pregnant. My eyes locked on the word. Pregnant. My grandmother got pregnant by a man who disappeared, a man that no one in the family knew, and she kept it herself. My mother, your great-grandmother, was devastated. He said I had destroyed my future, that I couldn't raise a child alone, that no one would accept me after that. That's when they made the decision for me. When my baby was born, took it from my arms. They said he would be raised as the son of another family, in a neighboring town, where no one would know about my shame. I felt my throat close up. The words seemed to scream inside me. I never saw him again. I only knew it was a boy, and that his name would be Miguel, but they never told me the last name, nor where exactly he was taken. Miguel. My lost uncle. My uncle. I stopped. Was she telling me that? I continued reading, barely breathing. After that, I met Antonio, a good man, who accepted me as I was. I married him without ever telling him that part of my life, not even for him, not even for the children we had, but I always carried the guilt. To miss the void. When you were born, Clara, I recognized something in your crying, a pain that wasn't just yours, it was mine too. I felt the ground disappear. Was she saying that this Miguel could be my biological grandfather, or the father of someone close? Did he come back? Had he been among us all this time, without knowing? But the letter still held more. I looked for him for many years, but shame always spoke louder. I never told anyone, until, a few years ago, I received an anonymous letter. Inside, there was a photo of a man, the age my son would be today, with a piece of paper written, "He looked for you, but he didn't have the courage to knock." Since then, I started writing letters, for myself, for him, and for you. That purple ribbon was my anchor, the last piece of the girl I was, and the mother I never managed to be. I cried, like I hadn't cried in a long time. I felt sorry for my grandmother. I felt angry at the weather. Of silence, of the trials that surrounded her, of the loneliness she carried. And I asked myself, how many other women have lived like this, with secrets kept in drawers, with letters never delivered, with children they've never seen. At the bottom of the envelope, along with the letter, there was a photo, a yellowed photograph, of a smiling man, leaning against a wooden gate, with eyes similar to mine. On the back, written in pencil, "He looked for you." I was paralyzed. I held that photo for minutes, trying to fit his face to someone I knew, but I couldn't. Who had sent that anonymous letter to my grandmother? Was he still alive? Did he know he had been rejected through no fault of his own? I looked at the purple ribbon again. Now, she wasn't just a childhood memory, it was a link. Between the past and the present, between pain and hope. I walked down the stairs slowly, the letter and the photo in the hands. I sat on the sofa in the living room and I stared at the portrait of Grandma Cecilia, hanging on the wall. Her eyes looked different now, more funds, more sincere. more human. I felt a mixture of love and sadness, of longing and anger. I want to hug her and ask her everything, but it was too late, or not. Maybe there was still time. Not for her, but for him, for this man in the photo, for that lost son who might still be out there, waiting for answers. I stood there, sitting in the living room, with the photo in his hands, and the head spinning like clothes in an old tank. That image seemed to be looking back at me. His eyes, there was something there. Bottom. Recognizable. Iba. Didn't know the name. I didn't know where he lived. I didn't know if he was still alive, but he looked for me, and that changed everything. I spent the day in silence. My mom called. He asked if I needed anything. No, everything is fine here. I lied. She said that her uncles would hold a meeting the following week to divide up Grandma Cecilia's belongings. They asked me to separate what was important to me, but how to separate what is important when the person's soul still seems to walk the corridors? That portrait, for example, with her sitting on the straw chair, hands resting on the lap, and that calm look of someone who holds the world in their chest. How was I going to leave this behind? But I didn't say anything. I remained silent, with the letter hidden inside her blouse, and the photo folded between the pages of a book she loved. That night, I slept badly. I dreamed about the past, with the woodshed, with the lilac ribbon floating in the air like a feather. I dreamed of a boy crying behind the door, and a woman hitting her belly, saying this can't go on. I woke up scared, sweaty, with my heart racing. I looked around. The house was silent, but inside me, there seemed to be an alarm going off. I needed to find out who Miguel was. The next morning, I opened the bottom drawer of Grandma's dresser, one she locked with a key. It took me a while, but I found the key inside a jar of buttons. Inside, I found several envelopes, old letters, receipts, and a little blue notebook, covered with flowery contact paper. Fol. It was a diary, dated 1971. The first pages talked about recipes. Then came shopping lists, but in the middle, among random notes, there was an underlined sentence. If Miguel ever returns, I will know by his eyes. My heart stopped for a second. She wrote this, saved this, on the same page. There was a handwritten full name, Miguel Ferreira da Luz, and below, something strange. Flower of the Fuge, Pouso Alto menos 1985, that looked like an address, or maybe the name of a city, and a date. I ran to the closet. I got my grandma's old telephone directory. I looked. Flor do Campo was a rural neighborhood, in a city called Pouso Alto, 2 hours away. My chest tightened. She had clues. She tried to look for it. She knew more than she said. I thought about calling my mom, but I stopped. How would I explain all this? How can I tell that my grandmother had a child before getting married, that he was taken from her, that maybe he's alive, and that I was now involved in this search? They would say it was crazy, that I was weakened by death, that I was seeing things, but no. It was no illusion. Asterisk. I had the letter. 2 photo, the diary. And now a name. That afternoon, I went downtown. I stopped by the internet cafe. I turned on a computer. I searched for Miguel Ferreira da Luz Pouso Alto. Dozens of results came back, men with the same name, but none of the right age. Continue. I searched on social media, on public lists. And then, among the results, one name caught my eye. Miguel F. Luz, retired teacher, Dona Nair Municipal School, Pouso Alto. I clicked. The page was simple. Profile photo. A square. No recent publications, but in the comments of an old graduation photo, a student wrote, I miss you, Miguel. The best history teacher I ever had. History teacher. In the same city. With the same name. And more. On the same date, 1985. He had started teaching at that school. Coincidence? My heart said no. I came back home. I waited for it to get dark. I put the letter and the photo in a folder, took the little blue notebook, and I sat in the backyard, near the guava tree. That's when I heard footsteps on the grass. It was Tia Marlene. Clara. Hi, daughter. I came to get some things from Mom. Absent. She came in. He went straight to his grandmother's room. He began to separate sheets, pillows, some wooden saints. I kept quiet until she looked at me with a strange expression. Are you okay, my daughter? Yes. Just tired. She hesitated. Can I ask you something? Absent. She came closer. He sat on the bench next to me yesterday. When you were alone here, did you find anything? My body froze. Like this. Some letter. I don't know. Mom wrote sometimes. She saved things. I hesitated. Why are you asking that? She looked away. Because ... I also found something. A few months before Mom left. My heart raced. What? She sighed. A letter. In a book. It said she had a son before she got married. That the baby was taken away. My eyes filled with tears. Did you know? She nodded slowly. But I never told anyone. I thought it was all in her head. An old, distorted memory. We think we know our parents. But there's so much that's hidden. I remained silent. Why didn't you tell me? Because ... Because it was hers. And if she wanted us to know, she would have told us. But now ... It seems the time has come, right? Absent, I want to look. I want to know who he is. Aunt Marlene held my hand. Then go, Clara. Go after her story. Go after yours. That night, I decided I would go to Paso Alto. Elon. With the letter. With the photo. With the lilac ribbon tied around the wrist. I knew it could end in nothing. That I could find someone completely different. Or discover something that might hurt even more. But I had to try. For Grandma Cecilia, by Miguel. And for me, the road was narrow, full of curves that seemed to have been drawn by someone with longing. With every kilometer, the sky changed color. Sometimes gray, sometimes gold, as if even time didn't quite know whether it was a day of revelations or farewells. Asterisk in the passenger seat. The lilac ribbon danced in the wind that came in through the half-open window, tied to the zipper of the backpack. It seemed to want to guide me. The GPS was failing, but intuition doesn't. I arrived in Paso Alto shortly after 3 in the afternoon. A small, silent town with the smell of fresh bread and stone floors. The kind of place where neighbors still chat on the sidewalk and the church bells marked the closing time for businesses. I stopped in front of the Dona Nair Municipal School. That's where he had taught for years, according to the page I found. But the school was closed. School holidays. I took a deep breath. I got out of the car. I approached the fence. Inside, the toys were standing still. A swing was still moving slowly, as if someone had just gotten up from there. Suddenly, I heard a voice behind me. Are you looking for someone? I turned slowly. She was a lady with white hair tied in a neat bun. She wore a flowery blouse and carried a grocery bag. I'm looking for a teacher who taught here. Miguel Ferreira da Luz. She frowned. Mr. Miguel? Oh yes, of course. Who are you? I hesitated. I'm an acquaintance of the family. I really need to talk to him. She smiled, but there was something suspicious in her gaze. He doesn't live here anymore, my dear. After he retired, he moved to the countryside, to the place he inherited from a relative. It's about 20 minutes from here, on Estrada do Cedro. Can you tell me if he usually receives visitors? She bit her lip. She looked around. Look, ... He's a good man, but he's a recluse. He doesn't talk much about life. He lives with his books and plants. Since he lost his wife, he's become even quieter. Is he married? It was Dona Nomia. She died of cancer 5 years ago. Since then, he's only been here occasionally. Can you give me the address? She hesitated again. Only if you promise not to scare the man. Okay. He's sensitive. Any strong emotion is harmful. I promised. I thanked him. I wrote down the route. The dirt road kicked up dust in the wind. The sun was beginning to set behind the mountains, and the nervousness inside me grew with every turn. Would he recognize me? Would you let me in? Should I really be there? But something stronger was pushing me, as if the tape on the zipper was pulling my body forward, as if Grandma Cecilia was whispering in my ear, go, it's time. The farm gate was made of aged wood. There was a little sign hanging Hekin to die speranza bachi palm trees. Nothing. I waited. Nothing else. I was going to turn around when I saw a figure appear around the side of the house. He walked slowly. He wore a straw hat and a plaid shirt. He had a watering can in his hand. Yes, the voice was calm. Low. With a soft accent. Good afternoon. Are you Miguel? He took off his hat, revealed gray hair, and a pair of faded blue eyes. Yes, it's me. Are you Miss? I swallowed hard. My name is Clara. I need to talk to you, sir. It's about Cecilia. Cecilia Nunes. His face turned pale. For a second I thought he was going to pass out. Mrs. Cecilia left. I nodded, tears in my eyes. He looked down. I already knew. I felt it. He invited me in. The house was simple, but full of books and plants, old photos on the walls, a smell of freshly brewed coffee. We sat on the porch. The sky was beginning to turn orange, and the crickets were already rehearsing the night serenade. She was my mother, wasn't she? The question came bluntly, direct, like an arrow he kept for decades. I nodded, unable to speak. He looked at the ground. He was silent for long minutes. I always knew, somehow, I always knew. My adoptive mother told me that I was given to her as a baby, but I never knew the name of the girl who gave birth to me, until one day, I received a letter. No sender. He just said, "You are Cecilia Noon's son. She never forgot you. Did you ever look for her?" I arrived in the city, saw her from afar. But I didn't have the courage. Why? He smiled sadly. Because she was happy, surrounded by children, grandchildren. I didn't want to mess up her world. I didn't want it to reappear as a mistake from the past. But she wanted to meet you. He wrote letters. He kept his memory like an altar. He closed his eyes. I used to write too, but I never sent it. I took the letter out of the folder. To photo, the lilac ribbon. He looked at everything in silence. He took the tape. He ran his fingers slowly. She gave me one just like it, before they handed me over, like this. In the hospital, they told me that before they took me away. She tied a lilac ribbon around my wrist, but they took it away soon after. The nurse kept it. He said he didn't have the courage to throw it away. My eyes filled with tears. Was it the same tape? Or a new one? Or would it just be another coincidence? He held the ribbon, as if holding a living memory. You have her eyes, and you have mine. He chuckled softly. Life is strange, isn't it? Absent, but sometimes, it takes beautiful turns. We stayed there until the sky became completely dark. He told me his story. I told mine. Two strangers, two pieces of the same longing. And in the end, before I said goodbye, he said, "Come back, whenever you want. There will always be coffee here, and a story to tell." On the road back, with the window open and the cold wind on your face, I felt something had settled inside me, as if a button had been sewn back on, as if her absence had taken me to him. As if the lilac ribbon was more than a memory. If it were destiny. The days that followed the visit to Miguel's place were strange. I returned home with my heart full of answers, and at the same time, with new questions. It was as if with every drawer I opened in the past, a new lock appeared behind the previous one. Miguel told me so much that afternoon, but what stayed with me most was the way he held the purple ribbon. As if she were the only thing left of a story the world tried to erase. The next night, I went to my grandmother's room again. I opened the boxes that were left. I went through old albums, scribbled diaries, until I found a red-covered notebook, with pages yellowed by time, and the following inscription on the back cover. The visits I never told anyone about. My hands sweated. I leafed through it slowly. Inside, names of people that Grandma Cecilia had received over the years. Some crossed out, others with dates written on them. In the midst of it all, one name froze me. Nurse Marissa, 1982, hospital. Snow Gabriel. She returned years later. She had something in her eyes. Marissa. Nurse. Return. Was it she who took Miguel from my grandmother's arms? Was she the one who received the purple ribbon and didn't have the courage to throw it away? I went back to the city's internet cafe. I searched for Nurse Marisa Menosonga Brio Hospital, Pozuao, and I found an old article from 2009 in which a lady named Marissa C. Tavares was honored for 40 years of service at the local hospital. The photo was in black and white, but I recognized something in the smile. I contacted the hospital. Good afternoon. Does Mrs. Marissa still work there? She retired over 10 years ago, but she lives nearby, in the Santa Rita neighborhood. I can write down her number for you. I wrote it down. I called. The voice on the other end was firm, but tired. Mrs. Marissa. Yes, who is speaking? My name is Clara. I'm Cecilia Noon's granddaughter. Do you remember her? The silence on the other end of the line lasted almost 20 seconds. Yes, I remember. I really need to talk to you, ma'am. It's about what happened in the hospital many years ago. Come tomorrow, after 4. Write down my address. The next morning, I prepared everything. I took the lilac ribbon, on paper, to photos, and the red diary. I drank my coffee from my grandmother's cup, the thick glass one with the chip on the rim, as if drinking there would bring me closer to her. I took the car, and I went. Donna Marissa lived in a simple house, with a flower garden and a rocking chair on the porch. She opened the gate herself. Clara, yes, come in. The house smelled of lavender and rubbing alcohol. On the shelf, old portraits. On the wall, a hand-carved wooden cross. We sat in the living room. She looked at me with teary eyes. You want to know about that day, don't you? Absent. She took a deep breath. I was on duty the day Cecilia gave birth. She was a young, scared girl, but with a strength that I have never seen in anyone else. Did she know they were going to take the baby away from her? She knew, but until the last second, she believed someone would change their mind, and nobody changed. No, the decision had already been made, by her mother, by the midwife, by everyone, and the baby, Miguel. She closed her eyes. It was beautiful, strong. She held him for less than 3 minutes, but in those 3 minutes, she tied a lilac ribbon around his wrist and said, take it with him. One day, he'll understand. And you, madam, you. I took off the tape, because the orders were clear. The baby could not take anything from the mother, but I didn't have the courage to throw it away. Did you save it? She stood up. He went to the room. He opened a small wooden box, and he came back in his hand. A lilac ribbon, more worn, more faded, but just like mine. This is the original, hers. I kept it for 43 years, and I never understood why. Until now. My eyes filled with tears. She placed the ribbon in my hand, and he said, give it to him. She deserves it. I left Donna Marissa's house as if I were carrying a reliquary in my pocket. That ribbon was more than just a piece of cloth. It was the invisible thread that stitched together all the parts of this story, from mother to son, from grandmother to granddaughter, from silence to redemption. That afternoon, I returned to Miguel's place. He greeted me with a lighter smile, as if something inside him already knew that the day would be different. We sat under the Jabata Cabrera tree. I placed the ribbon in his hands. This is the original. He held her like someone holding their own birth. I always felt like there was a missing piece. Now, there's no more missing. We stood there in silence. He cried, for the mother he lost, for the life he never had, for the chance that, nevertheless, had arrived. She loved you, Miguel, more than the world allowed her to show. He nodded. And you, Clara, it's the bridge she left between us. Before leaving, Miguel handed me an envelope. I found this among my wife's books. I don't know if it was hers. Or if someone left it there. I opened it in the car, and inside, a letter from my grandmother, for me. Handwritten. Dedicated, for the day Clara meets Miguel again. The envelope was sealed with gold thread. Simple. Delicate. With my name, handwritten in the bottom corner. Clara. That's all. No date. No signature on the front, but I knew where it came from. Miguel handed it to me with teary eyes. It was among Nomea's books, my wife. I thought it was hers, but now I think your grandmother left this hidden here on purpose. I held it carefully. It was as if the paper was burning in my hands, as if once again my grandmother was pulling me closer. Evan, after he has already left, I waited for night to come. Went back to her house. I locked myself in the room where I slept so many times as a child, listening to your footsteps in the early morning, and I sat on the edge of the bed, with the envelope on my lap. I took a deep breath, sheltered. Inside with 3 neatly folded sheets. The paint was blue, slightly faded. The lyrics are firm, despite the hooks of old age. I started reading. My dear Clara, if you are reading this, it is because you had the courage to go where I myself did not go. It's because he found Miguel. It's because you looked into his eyes and saw what I saw. The part of me that was taken from me, but that never went away completely. My eyes started to burn, but I continued. I wanted to write this letter so many times, but the words escaped, and time, that stubborn thing, always ran faster than me. When I knew I wouldn't have much time, I left this letter among Nomea's books. I knew that one day, somehow, it would come back into your hands. Clara, my granddaughter, my girl. I hid the truth out of fear, out of shame, but mostly for love. Love for the life I built. Love for the silence that protected me. Love for the idea that maybe everything would be okay if no one knew. But now that you know, I need to tell you what no one else knew, not even Miguel. I stopped. I closed my eyes. Was there more? I continued. When they took Miguel from my arms, I was promised that he would be raised by a good family, that he would have health, school, a warm bed, and for a while, I held on to that promise. But as the years went by, the doubt was growing like weeds in the backyard. Was he treated well? Did they know he liked to sleep with the window ajar, like me? Did they tell him that when he was born he held my fingers so tightly that I cried? For 20 years I wrote letters I never sent. Some are in the wooden box under my bed. Others I burned on August nights, asking the wind to carry my longing to him. But there was a day that changed everything. It was a Wednesday. I was coming back from the store. It was raining lightly, and there, across the street, he was, a tall man, in a white shirt, stopped, looking at me. Our eyes met, and, for a second, I knew it was him. He was my boy, but he didn't say anything, and me either. By this point, my hands were shaking. The image of her, standing in the street, recognizing her own son in the silence. It pierced me like a needle through fine fabric. I continued. I stayed awake for nights, reliving that moment, wondering if he had come to see me, if he wanted to forgive me, or if he just needed to confirm that I existed. After that, I started leaving clues, the lilac ribbon in your jacket pocket, the cards with hidden phrases, the old portraits on the table. When you came to visit me, it wasn't just nostalgia, Clara. It was a request, a silent cry. Find my son. Tell him I never really abandoned him. I paused. I went back to the past in a second. I remembered myself, little, wearing a striped jacket on a cold day. There was the lilac ribbon in the pocket, and she, laughing softly, said, "This tape will protect you." I never understood, until now. I went back to the letter. And if you have now found Miguel, know that destiny has been fulfilled. You were the link that not even I could be. But Clara, my girl, the most difficult moment has arrived. Decide what to do with this truth. Your mother doesn't know. None of your uncles know. I kept this secret so deep that it became a room in the house. You can tell them. You can bring the family together. Reveal that they have a brother, that Miguel is blood of our blood. Or, you can keep this between the two of you. Preserve the memory as it is. Let the silence continue to protect those who lived without knowing. I ask you neither one thing nor the other. I only ask you for courage and compassion. It was the first time I saw my grandmother truly say goodbye to me, not with a kiss on the forehead, not even with filtered coffee and lukewarm cornbread, but with words that span generations. Whatever you choose, know that I will be with you. I loved you before I even knew your name, and I loved Miguel even after I forgot mine. Thank you for sewing the pieces together, for seeing me beyond what I showed, for being more than a granddaughter. My redemption, with eternal love, Cecilia. I folded the sheets carefully, as if every fold needed a sigh. I kept it inside the wooden box, and I sat there, listening to the sound of the night. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to bring the family together, tell everything, to say that there was a lost brother show, the letter, get out, to photo. But another part, a silent part, like my grandmother's way of loving, asked for calm. He asked for confidentiality. Miguel was already at peace. I had found what I was looking for most. Wouldn't exposing this now be reopening a wound? Does the truth always need to be told, or, sometimes, can it be experienced only among those who feel it? The next morning I went to her grave. I took the original lilac ribbon, I placed it among the flowers, and I whispered, "I found him, Grandma. He is beautiful, it is good, and he carries a piece of his silence in his eyes." I closed my eyes. I felt the wind pass, as an answer, or a hug. As I left the cemetery, I took out my cell phone. I called Miguel. "Hey Clara." "Yes, are you well?" It took me a while to respond. "I am, but I need to ask you something, of course. Would you like everyone to know?" On the other end of the line, silence. "I've thought about it a lot," he said finally. "But the truth is, Clara, I already have everything I need." He is sure. "I have you, I have her memory, and I have peace. It's already more than I've had in my entire life." I closed my eyes. I took a deep breath. Maybe, The answer was already given. The days after reading the letter were silent. Silence inside the house. Silence within me. I woke up and made coffee as usual, but the taste was different. Everything was off. Miguel didn't care, me either. It was as if we needed this space for each of us to sort out what had just happened within ourselves. It was on a cloudy afternoon that the past literally knocked on the door. I was on the porch, reading one of the books my grandmother loved, when I heard footsteps at the gate. I looked up. A man, perhaps in his 60s, held a battered hat in his hands. "Good afternoon. Is this where Donna Cecilia's family lives?" My stomach churned. "Yes, it's here. Who are you?" "My name is Raul. I was Miguel's friend. A long time ago. Miguel." The name came out like a breath from his mouth, but it sounded like thunder inside me. I invited him in. The smell of wet earth entered with it. He sat down in the rocking chair. He looked around as if searching for ghosts. "I haven't been here in a long time," he said, running his fingers over the wood of the table. "What exactly are you looking for?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Miguel, I need to talk to him. It's urgent." My heart raced. "He's not living here. He lives on a farm, far away. May I know why?" Raul took a deep breath. "I have something to return. Something that has belonged to him since he was born." The words hung in the air. "Since you were born," I repeated. "Yes, I was an employee at Hospital Snow Gabriel in the 1980s. I worked in maintenance, but that day, they asked me to help transport a newborn. Miguel, that's it. I saw his mother put a ribbon on his wrist. I saw them take it off. I saw a nurse put it away. My blood ran cold." "Mrs. Marissa," he nodded. "She was my cousin. You kept it for years. When she died, I found the tape in her things. I kept it too, but recently, I found out where Miguel lives, and I thought it was time to give it back." I didn't know whether to cry or ask him to leave. That story had already taken enough turns to fit into a novel, but now someone from outside had a piece of that stitching and wanted to deliver. "Did you talk to him?" I asked. "Not yet. I thought I'd stop by first. I remember your grandmother. She was a woman with a firm but sad gaze. Absent she was." I remained silent for a few seconds. I could feel that Raul was carrying more than he was saying. "Why now?" I asked. "Why not before?" He sighed. "Because for years, I thought it wasn't my place. But Miguel deserves to know everything, and Mrs. Cecilia also deserves to rest easy knowing that nothing was hidden." The sentence went through me like a cut. I knew I needed to act fast. If Raul went straight to Miguel's place, he could talk too much. I could reveal things my grandmother asked me to handle delicately. "Can you show me the tape?" I asked. He took a brown envelope from his pocket. Inside, carefully rolled up, was the ribbon. One more. There were already 3. The original, which Marissa gave me. The one my grandmother put in my pockets when I was a child. And now this one, which Raul saved. It was as if the whole story was tied together in these pieces of fabric. "Raul," I began, choosing my words, "I understand your intention, but Miguel has already received the original tape. He knows about it. You know." He frowned. "You know, and he's at peace." "At peace." He laughed lightly. "I don't know if that exists when life is full of holes, but if you say so, I do." And I ask, "Don't go to him without telling me. It's a delicate matter." He stared at me, as if trying to gauge my sincerity. Finally, he nodded. "Okay, but I need to trust that you will deliver." I go, and he's going to tell you what he doesn't know yet. I'll think about it." After Raul left, I was alone on the porch. It was raining lightly. The smell of the earth mingled with the coffee that was cooling on the table. I took the 3 tapes. I put them side by side. Each one had a different shade of lilac. As if each piece had absorbed a type of pain. My grandmother had been weaving this story since before I was born, and now she was in my hands. The next day I went to the farm. Miguel was chopping wood. "Clara," he smiled. "What a nice surprise." I went in. I sat with him on the porch. "Miguel, yesterday someone came to me, a man named Raul." The smile disappeared from his face. "Raul, my childhood friend, himself. He said he had something of yours. And did you?" "A lilac ribbon." Miguel closed his eyes. "So it's true. I thought it was just a memory detail. But it seems everyone retained a piece of it." I told about Marissa. I told him about Raul. I haven't told her about my grandmother's letter yet. "Clara, you understand," he said, looking into the distance. "My life has always been a drawer full of unlabeled things, but finding you was what gave it meaning. What if more people find out? More people will want to name the labels, and maybe it won't be necessary." I knew he wanted to preserve, but what if Raul went back on his word? What if you went to the city to tell the story to someone in your family? The secret could spread like wildfire. Before I left the 3 tapes on his desk. Why are you giving it to me? He asked. Because no matter where they are, what they care about is already in your heart. Miguel smiled. You sound like her. I speak of her. On the way back, I made a decision. If Raul showed up again, I would be ready to protect him. Protect Miguel and protect my grandmother's will. But I didn't know that Raul was not the only one from the past willing to knock on the door, and the next one. I wouldn't come to return anything, I came to collect. I thought the past was over. All you had to do was keep the tapes, let the letter fall asleep in the wooden box, and move forward with the silence that Grandma Cecilia cultivated so much. But the truth is, the past has legs, and sometimes it runs faster than us. The following week I received a voicemail on my cell phone. It was my mother's. Clara, call me as soon as you can. I need to ask you something. It's about Grandma. She hung up. My stomach turned. I called immediately. Mother Clara, what there was. I just met Mr. Raul at the pharmacy downtown. Raul, He said he gave you a purple ribbon, silence, and that it was Mom's, that you would know what it was. Did he really say that, and more? He said you and Miguel met. Miguel, yes, Clara, the boy who showed up at the wake, the one who stood near the coffin without speaking to anyone. The mouth went dry. That Raul had broken the agreement. He said too much, or maybe you always planned to talk. My mother was restless. He took a deep breath on the other end of the line. Clara, who is Miguel? The question came like a knife. Letter, sharp. No room for lies. I closed my eyes. I saw the image of Grandma Cecilia sitting in the rocking chair, saying with his eyes what he never said with his mouth. She trusted me, but now, the time of choice had come. Peace, I began, my voice trembling. A part of Grandma's story, a part that's been hidden for a long time. Hidden? What do you mean? She had a son, Mother, before you. A son? Yes. She gave birth when she was very young. She was forced to give birth. No one knew. Silence on the other side. Not a sigh. Not an interruption. I continued. That son is Miguel. She left clues, letters, tapes. I found them. Why didn't you tell me? Because she asked me to. Not with words, but with everything she did. My mother's breathing became heavy. Is that true, Clara? Yes. She She lived with all this time. Yes. And he Miguel Does he know? He knows, and he wants number. He doesn't want anything. He doesn't want to take anyone's place. He just wanted to know if he was loved, if anyone remembered him. My mother's voice broke. I don't know what to think. I didn't know either. At first, she never spoke. Never. Not a word. Precisely for that reason, Mother, because it hurt more than she could say. That changes everything. Or maybe, just complete what was always incomplete. We spent long minutes in silence. Are you going to tell your brothers? I asked. I don't know. Miguel doesn't want to. And you? I want to respect Grandma's memory. I want to preserve the silence she chose. She sighed. I need to think. I understand. Before hanging up, my mom said something that made me cry. Thank you for being the heart that sewed all of this together. Clara, it was her. I just followed the thread. In the following days, the world seemed suspended. I didn't receive any calls. There was no fuss. The letter remained in the box, the ribbons in the envelope, but something told me it wasn't over yet. On Friday afternoon, the doorbell rang. Opened the door. He was a gentleman with a firm gaze and a worn jacket. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Can I help you? I'm a lawyer. My name is Dr. Sergio Alves. I was contacted by Raul. He asked me to mediate a paternity recognition lawsuit. The ground slipped away from under my feet. Forgiveness. Miguel has a legal right to be recognized. Raul wants to help him with that process. But Miguel doesn't want that. Mr. Raul claims that there is a moral right above personal desire. Miguel doesn't want to be recognized. He just wants to remember his mother as she was. The lawyer stared at me coldly. The family's emotions are understandable, but they do not interfere with the course of the law. I closed the door slowly. I went to the room. I picked up the cell phone. I called Miguel. Please answer. Please answer. On the third ring, he answered. Clara, we need to talk. Now. 2 hours later, I was at the site. The sky was cloudy. as it always seemed to be when something important was approaching. Miguel was waiting for me on the balcony. What there was, I told everything, word for word. He closed his eyes, he took a deep breath, and he was silent for long minutes. I knew this could happen, me too, but not anytime soon. And now, we need to decide together. Raul, was always persistent. He always wanted to do the right thing, but that's not right, Miguel. Grandma didn't ask for this. He nodded. The only justice I needed, Clara, I already received when you listened to me, when you opened the letter, when you looked at me and didn't turn away. My eyes filled with tears. Then, let's fight for it. Let's go. The next morning, Miguel wrote a letter, simple, direct, with sincere words, like everything that came from him. I do not want any legal recognition. My bond with Cecilia is emotional, eternal, and silent, just like she herself was. I do not seek rights, surnames, or divisions. I only seek peace. And now that I have found her, I ask that you respect that choice. Miguel. The letter was delivered to the lawyer. There was no further response, at least for now, but something inside me told me that my grandmother's silence continued to protect me. That night, I dreamed about her. I was sitting in the kitchen, sewing a lilac ribbon. He looked at me, he smiled, and he said, "You knew how to listen to what I never managed to say." I woke up with tears in my eyes. I still didn't know what my mother would do, or if her brothers would ever find out. But I knew the most important thing, the secret, was no longer a burden. It was a complete story. It didn't need to be told to everyone, but it needed to have been experienced by someone. And I lived. I believed that, after Miguel's letter and the lawyer's retreat, everything would fall into the silence that my grandmother loved so much. But as I learned along the way, stories don't end when we want them to. They finish when they find a place to rest. It was Sunday morning when my mother called me up. Her voice was calmer than in their last conversation. "Clara, I read his letter, from Miguel. Yes, you sent me a copy, remember? I reread it several times, and I decided to respect that. I won't tell my brothers anything. It doesn't change who we are. Thank you, Mom. She took a deep breath. But I want to meet him. He is sure. I do, not out of obligation, by choice." 2 days later, I scheduled the meeting, on the site, at dusk. When we arrived, Miguel was on the porch, cutting pieces of wood for the wood stove. When he saw my mother, he stopped. "Donna Helena?" he asked, as if the name were a lost piece of an old song. "Miguel." They stared at each other for long seconds, and then, my mother took 2 steps forward and hugged him. I didn't say anything, neither does he, but I saw his shoulders shake, and I saw the tears in her eyes. We sat at the table. Miguel made coffee. My mother took a cornmeal cake. The atmosphere was strange, at first, but little by little, the stories began to emerge. Small memories that didn't intersect, but touched each other in some way. My mother told me about Grandma Cecilia's youth, about how she always put her hands in her grandchildren's pockets, as if looking for something. Miguel smiled. She did that to me too, the few times we met by chance, before I knew who she was. As the sun began to set, my mother took something out of her bag. It was a little metal box. "I found this among her things. Clara, I don't think you've ever seen it. Shelter. Inside was an old needle, a spool of lilac thread, and a faded photo. In the photo, Cecilia was holding a baby in her arms. Her face was partially covered by the shadow of a hat, but the smile was the same as I remembered. Miguel touched the image with his fingers. "It is me, my mother," nodded she. Kept it to herself all her life. The silence that came after was not heavy. It was the silence of someone who had already said everything. Before we left, Miguel took the 3 lilac ribbons and placed them on the table. "One for each of you," he said, looking at me and my mother. "And the third one will stay here, because she already knows where it is." That night, back home, I sat on the porch with the tape in my hands. The cold wind blew through my hair, as if it were a caress from my grandmother. I looked up at the sky and spoke softly. "The last stitch is done, Grandma. Now the story can rest." And for the first time since it all began, I felt peace. If you've made it this far, you might be feeling that lump in your throat that I also felt as I lived through each part of this story. Life is made of invisible threads that connect us, even when we think we are alone. Sometimes these threads remain hidden for years, until someone has the courage to pull them and sew back together what time has tried to tear. If this story touched your heart, I invite you to subscribe here on the Grandma's Diaries channel. Share in the comments what it reminded you of. It could be a smell, a memory, a person you'd like to meet again. And don't forget, in the next episode, we'll dive into another memory that was stored away. A story of love, loss, and reunion, told through an object that carries more memories than it seems. Until then, and may your stories always find a safe place to rest. This story is not in the books. It's sewn inside a faded ribbon and a drawer that no one has opened in years. It's about what a grandmother hid, and only revealed it after the last cup of coffee. Welcome to the channel Grandma's Diaries. Here, every memory is a beautiful scar that time has decided not to erase. Subscribe now. Leave your like and tell me in the comments what object of your grandmother's holds a secret that only you understand. It was Tuesday. It had been raining lightly since dawn. That noiseless rain that seems to ask permission to fall. The sky was gray like an old dishcloth, and the smell was of wet earth with a lit candle. My grandmother Cecilia had left the night before, without warning, no goodbye. He fell asleep listening to the battery-powered radio, hiss, and never woke up again. They said it was the heart, but I know it was longing. She had been quiet for days. It took a while for the look to come back. When we called, my hand shook less when I was no longer embroidering. And the food, well, the food has lost its taste since Grandpa left. She just said, I eat because I have to eat, but the desire is gone. The wake room was full, but it seemed empty. People spoke softly, as if her soul was still listening from somewhere. Those who never came, came. Those who never cared showed up with artificial flowers, and those who were always, were silent. But what bothered me most was Uncle Petro, Grandma Cecilia's only son, the favorite, according to the aunts, what won the house in front, the heritage of the site, and the first piece of cake on birthdays. He was too quiet, more than usual, sitting in a corner, his eyes glued to the antique dresser they brought from her room. What's this for? Someone asked. That's where she kept her medicines and some souvenirs, replied Aunt Marlene. But Uncle Pedro became serious. With heavy eyes on that bottom drawer, the one that always got stuck, the one that only she could open. I noticed he avoided looking at the coffin, but he couldn't take his eyes off the dresser. That's when I got the chills. You know, that shiver that comes without wind. That feeling that something is out of place. That was it. Something there didn't make sense. When the coffin closed, something opened inside. May was the last to leave the room. I waited until everyone said goodbye, until the coffee cups go cold in the corner of the kitchen sink. Until the sun breaks through the sky and hits the window. I stood there, alone, in the house where I grew up, on vacation, where I learned to grate coconut, wash my face with scented water, and to recognize the sound of the kettle as a call for affection. I sat on the edge of the bed. The patchwork quilt still smelled like her, and there, right next to it, was the dresser. The drawer underneath remained closed, packed, as if it were alive. I pulled once, nothing. I pulled again, harder, and she opened it. With a dry snap, as if she had sighed with relief after years of imprisonment. Within, a lilac ribbon, faded, with one end tied in a small knot, like a child's. Underneath it, a yellowed envelope, with my name handwritten. For Clara. Only open it when there is no more time to ask. I trembled. Why would she leave something like that? Why for me? Why hidden? His heart was beating faster than his fingers could open the paper. Inside was a letter, and in the first lines, a weight that took the ground from under my feet. My girl, if you found this tape, it's because I'm already gone. But there are things that not even death can silence. Time stood still in the living room. I sat on the floor, cross-legged. Ui velopi, no colo. Heart enthroatened, the world outside spinning slowly. The smell of the tape was like old perfume and a closed drawer. That smell of something that has a memory stored inside, and on paper. It was a dive, a journey of no return. She said, Clara, for many years I kept this secret. I thought I would protect you. I thought that if you didn't know, you would suffer less. But now I realize that silence hurts too. My grandmother had a secret, and he left me the key after he died. I couldn't finish the letter that night. I had to stop. Not because I couldn't stand reading, but because breathing began to fail. You know when we hold back tears for so long that the body starts to shake on its own. It was like this. I closed my eyes with the letter still open on my lap, and let the lilac ribbon slip from my hand. It fell to the ground like a thread of memory escaping in the wind. I didn't even pick it up. I left her there,